Hi, I'm Morgan McLean. I'm a program manager on the store catalog, and today I'll be talking to you about how to improve discovery of your application in the Windows Store. This is a fairly high-level overview, but it'll apply both to existing developers and those who are new to the Windows Store ecosystem. These suggestions are based off of successful apps that we see submitted to the store every day, both from Microsoft and from third-party developers. To begin, there are two major categories of store discovery. The first is the set of things that are controlled within the store. Of those, the first is store suggestions. These are the results that you see, typically 4 results, when you start typing text into the search box. The next is actual search results. When you press enter and actually execute a search query, this is the page that's generated within the store afterwards. Finally, we have store recommendations. These are shown in 3 different places. The first is the store homepage. Some of these are curated by Microsoft themselves. Others are generated algorithmically. The second location is on category hub pages. And the third location is on details pages for other applications. This is most commonly known as the if you like this app, you might like these other apps section. The next category is external discovery. The most obvious of this is direct deep links into the store. These are links that you can share with your customers or potential customers that if they click them will launch the store website, and if they're on a Windows device or a Windows 10 device, it will actually launch the store app itself. You can share these through social media, email campaigns, etc. They're very flexible. The next are app install ads. These are a relatively new feature to the Windows Store. These are advertisements within other applications that you can use to link to your application in the store. Finally, you have traditional ad campaigns that can both take place within other applications or through the web or other media. The first and most important thing that you can do to make your application popular in the Windows Store is to have a great application. This is a mix of, your application must have a mix of usefulness and quality. The first and best and most important thing you can do is to make a great application. Without this, no amount of store search or discovery optimization is going to pay off. What does it mean to be a great app? It's a combination of usefulness and quality. Even the most well-polished products still need to provide value to their customers who use them. The next is the product details page. This is the very first place that people see your application in the store. And there's a number of components that are really important to it. The first is the most obvious. It's the title. The title of your product should be simple and catchy, and it should accurately describe what it does. This is also, of course, shown in search results. The next is focusing on your images. The images include the logo, which is also shown in search results, as well as the screenshots for your application. Screenshots are particularly important. It is also important that you keep them updated, as we sometimes see applications where the app itself has been updated, but the screenshots don't accurately reflect this. Screenshots should be up-to-date, clear, and actually show some of the most valuable features of your application. If we jump back to the text area for a second, you also have the app's description. The description is important for a number of reasons. The first is that it's the text that actually describes what your application does to the customers. Next, you need to focus on how your app appears in the store. Its search results and appearance in search, as well as the product details page, or PDP, are the first contact that customers have with your application. You want to make sure that it both draws people in and accurately describes what your app does in the store. This is the last chance that people have to actually go out and purchase or install your application. So you want to make sure it looks good and reflects the quality that you've put into the application itself. There are a few important characteristics here. The first is focusing on the text. This is the title and the description. The title is shown in search. So this is something you want to make sure that is both catchy, concise, and clearly describes what your application does. The next is the description. The description is quite interesting. It's only shown on the details page itself, and if you notice on what's being presented behind me, only the first few sentences or first few words are actually shown by default. So customers have to click more to see a more detailed description. This means that you should focus most of your effort on the beginning few sentences. The description is something you should focus on for customer readability. It doesn't affect search results. That's what titles and keywords are for. So don't try and focus on putting in words in the description that you think will influence the search results. Just focus on making it readable and concise. The next is the images. Of these, there's 2 major sets. You have your logo or tile. This is shown both in search results and on the top left of the product details page. Next, you have the screenshots. There's a couple important things to keep in mind for screenshots. First of all, the obvious ones. They need to accurately show what your application does, and as a developer, you want to show the most important features or most enticing components of your application to customers. The second thing to keep in mind for screenshots is to keep them up to date. We see a lot of developers in the store who have an amazing application, and they continually update their app and make it better. but sometimes they don't update their screenshots. Make sure that you do this, because to a customer who hasn't used your app before, if the PDP shows a much older version, they're less likely to want to use your application. Next is in-app purchases. If your app has these and they have titles, the store will actually show them, as you can see in the Solitaire example below. The store will actually show the titles of these, the titles of your most popular in-app purchases. As a developer, this is just more text and more data that you can give to the customer that might draw them in, and it just gives you a more complete product details page. Next, and this is probably one of the most overlooked items, is release notes. The Windows Store allows you to actually publish release notes with every update of your app. This is very, very critical. I'm just saying this from my personal experience. If I'm looking at the details page for an app and it has release notes that are current, I both see the new features that the developer has added that I might not notice in the description or screenshots, and it's a signal to me that says this app is regularly maintained and up to date. So make sure you focus on this. Next is your reputation. This is shown both in search results and the product details page, and it can influence the results themselves. A lot of reviews is good. A lot of great reviews is, of course, excellent. You can now actually respond to reviews through the Microsoft Developer Center. This is a great new feature that, especially when your app is new and you have a smaller number of reviews that you want to influence, it's a great way to actually get feedback from your customers and perhaps even influence them to raise the level of the reviews. This will help your app both in search results. People will see it. They see the star rating in search results, are more likely to click on it. And secondly, it also does influence your search ranking. So good reviews are a really important thing to focus on. And finally, this doesn't apply to most developers, but you do have situations where developers submit duplicate copies of an application, either because it's available or used to be available on a phone or desktop platform, or because they have different variants of the app they sell in different markets. Generally, our advice is to avoid this. By having a single application, your presence in the store is much more clear to customers. And secondly, your usage data, so the number of users that you have, the number of customers you have for that app, and the reviews will be more positively influenced. This, in turn, provides a much more positive influence to your search results and recommendations. The next level of optimization is optimizing your title and keywords to get noticed in the store. The title, as I mentioned before, is shown in Store Search and Store Suggestions. It's highly influential to both of those. It is spell checked in search, so if your title is odd or not technically a word in the languages that people are looking for, that's okay. The search engine understands that, and it will correct slightly misspelled queries. The next is keywords. Keywords impact search results. They are, of course, not as influential as a title, but they're still very, very useful. Interestingly, they're also indexed by web crawlers online. So your keywords won't just influence store search, it also influences searches in Bing or Google or other search engines. And finally, for keywords, make sure you make them relevant. At times, we do see developers putting in, for example, for maybe a Maps application, keywords like Twitter or Facebook. Don't do that. We actually do notice these things. It doesn't help you. And finally, if you have an app that's notable, that's quite successful, it will show up in the recommendations hubs that I mentioned earlier. This includes on the store homepage, as well as websites like MSN.com and the default new tab page for Edge. And finally, the other thing I mentioned before is direct links. You can share these via many, many means like social media or email campaigns. This is a great way to get your app noticed for people who aren't necessarily browsing the store regularly. So all of the mechanisms that I described before, both, of course, building a great application and then optimizing its presence in the store, will lead you to have a successful application. This, in turn, will increase your success in the store. Success and the number of downloads, number of ratings, popular ratings, etc., are the best mechanisms that we have as Microsoft to highlight your application to the store and to know that it's something that customers like. So this will lead, for example, to your app being more highly ranked in search results and appearing on the store homepage in the recommendations section. Finally, one of my colleagues, Bernardo, has a blog post where he goes over 6 other tips to more highly rate your app in the Windows Store. Some of them overlap with this, some of them are different, so I recommend you read it if you find this an interesting topic. And that's a wrap for today's presentation. As I mentioned before, it's fairly high level. It's not to an extreme level of depth. But for both new developers and those who are experienced but are looking for more advice and tips for how to optimize their application in search or details about the product details page, I hope it's been really useful. Thank you very much.